offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth.
And you have offended Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
All right, everybody, 45 after the hour, and it would have to be the show before the election when I would have all the technical difficulties in the studio. Now my video feed won't come back to my screen, so to hell with it. I'm just going to rant on audio, and you can look at the crazy picture that's on there. But I wanted to talk to people about Proposition 19 here in the state of California that will be voted on soon, and also about a Gallup poll that just recently came out. First of all, Proposition 19 has a lot of detractors out there. I shouldn't say a lot. Well, there's a lot of detractors from law enforcement and some of the politicians who are against 19, but also some people, some traitors that I call stoners against legalization that are causing problems here with Prop 19 as well. And what this comes down to is the fact that a lot of people are scared of change. Law enforcement is scared of the change that they will no longer be able to bust law-abiding marijuana consumers, that all the asset forfeiture that they would get from busting those consumers is no longer going to be coming into their coffers. The way that they have to harass young people and minorities is going away. This is all wonderful stuff that's coming up from Prop 19. The stoners against legalization and some of these other people that are against Prop 19 are also scared of the change that will take away their lucrative monopolies on selling $20 grams of weed and selling $150 permission slips to go buy it. Legalizing marijuana under Prop 19 means all adults 21 and over will be able to possess 1 ounce of marijuana on their person outside the home. Now, this has been mischaracterized by some people. They say, oh, well, you can grow 25 square foot inside your home, but once you harvest, wouldn't you have more than an ounce? Yes, you would. But inside the home, at the site of your harvest, you are allowed to possess all of the marijuana that you have harvested. Not just from this harvest, but from any harvest. So if you really think about it, that's a whole lot of marijuana that you'll be able to keep inside your home. Adults will also be allowed to share an ounce of marijuana with other adults. However, Prop 19 also strictly forbids the transfer of marijuana from adults to children. We don't want kids to get a hold of marijuana, and if your excuse for voting no on Prop 19 is because you like smoking around kids, then I'm afraid I can't convince you. We are also banning smoking in public, and we are maintaining the existing laws against working or driving while impaired by marijuana. Commercial sales and cultivation of marijuana are left up to the cities and the counties to regulate or to forbid altogether. Those that choose regulation also set the taxation of marijuana sales to benefit their local communities. However, this does not change people's medical rights under Proposition 215. You will still have the same rights to go to your dispensaries, to produce the gardens that you're producing now. This is an initiative that is specifically about personal use, consumption, and cultivation of marijuana. It does not do a thing to people's medical rights. That's another one of the scare tactics that's being used out there by some of the stoners against legalization. Also, some of the law enforcement people are trying to scare you by saying the roads will be overrun with stoned drivers because there'll be all these new people that are using marijuana and they won't know how to drive under it and they're going to be wrecking on the road. That is just simply not true. Proposition 19 maintains DUID laws. If they're busting people for driving stoned now, they'll still be able to bust people for driving stoned after Prop 19. And, by the way, there is no evidence to suggest that when you liberalize marijuana laws that the impaired driving goes up at all. In fact, what we've seen is it goes down. Since medical marijuana passed in 1996, accidents and fatalities on the roadways in every medical marijuana state have declined. Also, when we look at places like Portugal or the Netherlands, they don't see a rash of impaired drivers, even though they have decriminalized or tolerated the use of marijuana and some other drugs. So there is no evidence to suggest there will be more stone drivers on the road. Employees also will not be allowed to come to work high. This is something you've been hearing from the Chamber of Commerce. They say, oh, come to work high and drive the forklift. That is just not true. It's an out-and-out fabrication. Employers can still maintain a drug-free workplace, and you will not be allowed to come to work high any more than workers are allowed to come to work drunk. We still maintain that. Employers can discipline, sanction, or fire you for being impaired on the job. So do not believe that scare tactic. Now, on the other side of the scare tactics from some of the stoners against legalization, one that I hear quite a bit is, oh no, big tobacco is coming in. Big tobacco's coming in and they're going to take over the marijuana market and sell toxic swaggy joints to everyone. Or since George Soros just donated $1 million to the campaign and George Soros has stock in Monsanto, the latest conspiracy theory is, oh, Monsanto's going to come in and dominate the marijuana market and take away all the seeds and replace them with genetically modified Franken seeds that won't reproduce, and you'll have to buy all your seeds from Monsanto and they'll sew up the monopoly. Folks, conspiracy theories like that deserve the same respect as people that say the moon landing was faked. Marijuana sales will not be monopolized by big tobacco or any multinational company or seed company or any company doing business on a national level. The reason why? Marijuana will still be federally illegal, and any major corporation that begins selling marijuana would be risking seizure of billions of dollars of their assets in a federal court. Now, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the federal courts over the past decade, but they're awfully fond of hauling big tobacco into court and getting out from them, extracting from them billions of dollars in settlements. You don't think that they wouldn't want to do that once big tobacco tries to sell its first joint? Then you don't understand how the federal government works. Big tobacco and seed companies can't touch California's marijuana market. And once again, and we'll underline this and boldface it for everyone there, medical marijuana patients' rights will not be affected by making recreational marijuana legal. Don't believe these I gots mine people who want to maintain the dispensary monopolies, who want to maintain $20 a gram pricing for marijuana, who want to maintain their medical clinics that offer $150 permission slips for your right to use marijuana. Now, those are the things that Prop 19 will not do. Let me tell you what Prop 19 will do. Marijuana consumers will no longer be harassed by law enforcement, employers, and landlords for their lawful use of marijuana. We'll treat it like alcohol. You're not allowed to come to work drunk. You're not allowed to drink on the job. But if you drink on the weekend and come to work sober on Monday, you shouldn't be sanctioned. You shouldn't be discriminated against. The same thing will apply to marijuana consumers. If you're using marijuana recreationally and responsibly on your off hours, you will not be discriminated against for that in the workplace or at your in your residence or by law enforcement. And I can't overemphasize how important this is, because a lot of these people have been saying, well, you know, it really doesn't matter because Governor Schwarzenegger signed a decriminalization bill, and so it's only a ticket if you get caught with weed. Yeah, it's a ticket. It's $100 ticket. Who wants to pay $100 for carrying an ounce around? Furthermore, if it's a ticket, it's still illegal. If it's still illegal, it still means probable cause. If there's still probable cause, that means shaking you down on the streets, patting you down, searching your cars, bringing in drug-sniffing dogs, getting search warrants for your homes. Those things go away because marijuana will be lawful. Also, Prop 19 means the price of marijuana should decrease dramatically, removing the obscene profits that fund gangsters and criminal cartels. Everyone will be able to grow it and share it, so anyone who wants to sell it has to compete with you, and your friends growing your own. That also goes back to the big companies. They say, oh, the big companies will produce all this toxic, swaggy, no good, unpotent weed. Really? Who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy the lousy corporate weed when everybody and their friend can grow a 5x5 garden that can produce 12 to 24 ounces every harvest? Furthermore, with respect to the tickets, let's go back to that. They say, oh, it's only a ticket. But do you realize that when it's a ticket, that means police still have to do the booking. They still have to do all the paperwork. They still have to submit evidence to the crime labs. And when that evidence is submitted to the crime labs, it's put in a priority queue because a court case is coming up on that ticket, right? That means that the crime lab's testing of evidence for murder, arson, and rape gets backlogged behind testing dime bags to prove marijuana tickets. We've been speaking to Stephen Downing, an LAPD deputy chief, who tells us that the rape kit processing in California crime labs is backlogged by 3 years. 3 years. And since most rapists are serial rapists, that means 3 more years of potential rapes, while one brave woman who decides to press charges is waiting for the crime lab to process the rape kit. And that rape kit is being delayed because they're processing dime bags to test them to see if they're really marijuana. When Prop 19 passes, this ends. No more testing dime bags. No more letting rape kits sit on the shelf while we try to bust some pothead. Furthermore, for us marijuana consumers, we've been living in paranoia and fear for all of our lives with respect to law enforcement. Every time we drive around and we see a cop car driving up behind us, we get that chill down our spines and we worry, is this the time I'm going to get pulled over and my car ransacked and hauled in because I might have a couple of ounces on me? Is this the time where if the cops knock on my door, they might see that pot plant growing on my shelf, or they might see a baggie or a bong on my table and get a search warrant? Will this be the time that my neighbors complain about a skunky smell and the cops get a warrant to search my house and find my garden? All of that ends. And the benefit for all Californians is the fact that us, the 3.3 million cannabis consumers in California, will no longer be afraid to call the cops when we see a crime in progress. We'll no longer be afraid to call the cops when our homes are invaded, or when someone is trespassing, or when we see something going on the streets that deserves police attention. How many of us don't interact with police because we're thinking, oh, well, somebody else will call 911. I can't really call them. I don't want them to find the pot plant in my closet. That's over. We can go back to being the same law-abiding, police-respecting citizens that beer drinkers are. Well, maybe that's not a good example, but anyway, the point still stands. We no longer need to fear law enforcement. We can cooperate with law enforcement and make our neighborhoods safer. Also, law enforcement in Prop 19 is specifically prevented from seizing, attempting to seize, or threatening to seize lawfully produced marijuana in the state of California. What that means is the next time the DEA wants to round up the posse and come into California to bust not only a Prop 19 store, but Prop 215 dispensaries, state and local cops can't help them. Every single raid that we have seen through the Bush administration, through the Obama administration, whether conducted by federal law enforcement or conducted by local law enforcement, depends on the manpower of state and local law enforcement. Without that manpower, the DEA does not have the resources to go after lawfully produced marijuana in the state of California, whether it be medical or recreational. We are completely hamstringing the federal government's ability to push Californians around with respect to their lawful use of cannabis. Right there, that could be the most important thing about Prop 19, in my opinion. So don't believe the hype, people. Prop 19 is what we've been waiting for. Now, I've heard a lot of people out there that say, oh, well, Prop 19 and an ounce is not enough, a 5x5 garden's too small, oh, these restrictions on this, there's restrictions on that, as if they're waiting for the perfect initiative. Listen to me. Initiatives are not written for you and me, the cannabis consumer, the hempsters, the educated people who know that marijuana is God's most perfect plant and mankind's savior. They're not written for us. We're going to vote for that anyway. These initiatives are written for the soccer moms. They're written for the religious conservatives. They're written for the law and order types who still think marijuana is the demon weed that will make you go crazy and lead you to heroin. We've got to convince those people. So we start with a baby step like Prop 19, and we convince those people that is okay and that the sky will not fall. Once that happens, we can make it better. Prop 19 specifically allows the legislature and the people to amend it to improve it, not to make it any worse, but to improve it. So that means if you're waiting for a better initiative in 2012, Go ahead and vote for Prop 19 now, and you can vote for the better one in 2012. It also means all those people who can't come out of the closet to support the better initiative in 2012 because they're afraid it's illegal can come out of the closet because it's legal. We will have so much more support for future legalization initiatives if it's legal. So vote yes on Prop 19. Make it good now. Make it better later. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us here. Sorry about the technical difficulties on the video feed and the chat. We'll be back on Tuesday with our live coverage of Election Day. And until next time, take care of each other, tokens.